Welcome, everybody, to episode 140, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I am your handsome host, the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. And in my upper left corner, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell. What's popping?
Look, I'm happy, man. I'm very happy. You know, it's getting to that time of the year where that I live for. So I'm happy.
You're still a little bit delayed. College football is like 60 days away. But it's okay. It's all right. I'm still ready for that too. Football is in a month and a half, 2 months. We get to start getting into our football list soon. I'm an NFL guy. If you didn't know it already, the name don't change. In my upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Bill Shallcross. What's popping tonight, Bill?
Nah, excited. Ella, it's U.S. Open weekend. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. Watch the carnage on the golf course.
Any golf tournament is one of your favorite weekends of the year.
That's not true. Big ones. I like the big ones. But U.S. Open is notorious for making these guys look like, everybody else that goes out on a golf course. And you see them get mad, throw clubs. They act like the normal guy at your local country club every weekend. So I look forward to the U.S. Open. I like watching those guys look average.
Gene, I'm kind of with you, though. I think, any tournament, I think Bill's overly excited for, FedEx, Bridgestone, doesn't matter. If they're golfing and they're professionals, he's happy about it.
Ryder Cup, one of my favorite weekends of the year. Just kidding.
Ryder Cup's amazing.
I feel you. NBA Finals, over in 5. I should never change my pick. I had Nuggets in 5 to start the series. I switched it after the Heat won game 2. Look, Golden Knights got it done in 5. Golden Knights dominant fashion, so that's another one. We got to talk about the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, UFC. Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, hangs them up, drops her gloves in the ring. Oh, and I got somebody I need to call out. I am calling someone out tonight for their behavior when the GOAT of the female division retires. And I'll tell you, she's definitely top 5 in UFC history. So you don't do that. You don't handle your way the way she did. And I'll get into her in a little bit. We got the PGA US Open, College World Series. And we're going to talk about a little Skip Shannon, a little drama. I only want to bring it up because there was a couple things that I found very notable. Like things that I thought were very interesting. The way Shannon worded his exit from Undisputed. But we got to start with the NBA Finals. We got to start with Joker. That guy is hilarious. I've never seen a guy less excited to win an NBA Finals than Nikola Jokic. They won. He got to the press conference. They asked if he's excited for the parade. His response is, what day is the parade? They tell him Thursday. Oh, no. I need to go home. He had no care. Did not want to be at that parade. He wants to be back in Serbia. Then said in the press conference he hates his job. He's like, everybody hates their job. They're just lying to you if they tell you they're not. Guy's hilarious. But the Denver Nuggets in dominant fashion. Michael Malone, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. But forget Michael Porter Jr. I told you who was going to be an X factor in the series. And that was Bruce Brown.
He played pretty well in Game 5.
Played pretty well in Game 4.
No, he's talking about Michael Porter.
I'm talking about Porter Jr., not Brown.
Oh, Michael Porter Jr. did. You're right.
I say if there's one game that Brown didn't play well, it was Game 5.
I will say this. Bruce Brown was an X factor in the series. His 21 point, 17-point fourth quarter in Game 4 versus Miami was huge. I got a question already before we get into a little breakdown. My man Dylan, is Joker the best Denver Nuggets player ever? My answer would be yes. Who else in Denver Nuggets history can give you 2 MVPs, a Finals MVP, and a ring?
It's an easy yes, and I'll double down with Gene. I don't know who you think is in that discussion.
Yeah, I mean the only answer there is Joker, and I don't know how anyone could argue anything else. I mean, like you said, 2 MVPs. He brought the team. He brought that team their first championship in history. So that's the only answer.
Okay, so let's talk about the series as a whole. Jimmy Butler ran out of gas. He did. Jimmy Butler ran out of gas. The Miami Heat role players did not dominate the series like they have in previous series. Caleb Martin was lost for 4 out of 5 games.
Ghost.
Gabe Vincent was good for the first 2 games and then was a ghost the next 3. Max Strus was awful game 1, decent game 2, wasn't really great games 3, 4, and 5. Bam Adebayo did his thing, and I told you he was going to do his thing before the series started. I said Joker will not be able to keep up with his athleticism. But I will say this, on the other end of the court, Nikola Jokic earned that MVP, that Finals MVP award. So I don't give me the Russell Westbrook response. Don't give me the what. But did Miami lose the series or did Denver win the series? And I asked that question because I want to know if Miami ran out of gas or Denver was just too much. Good, Charles, start off.
I feel like, I mean, Denver was the better team coming into this series. I think we all kind of knew that. That's why we picked them in 5 at the start of the series. And I mean, they had the best player in the series in Nikola Jokic. And you know, we talked about Jimmy Butler and what he done to get the Heat to this point. And you know, say what you want, Jimmy wasn't him. You know, he wasn't Jimmy Butler this series. How that Miami Heat team really needed him to be. And I credit that a lot to the way that Denver was defending him. And so I definitely have to give all the credit in the world to Denver for that. And let's be honest with ourselves too. The Miami Heat team, they overachieved for what their expectations were going into the start of the playoffs. So I think it was really just a mix of Denver being the more talented. They were great coach. You know, obviously Spo did his thing on his end, but Denver had more talent. They had been the more dominant team all season, and they just didn't let up, you know. So I think Denver won the series, and Miami just ran into competition that they frankly just weren't better than.
If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I'll go right to Shally after this. I don't think Miami was better than any team they played in this playoffs. I think they were smarter. I think they played better as a team. But talent for talent, I think every single team they played in this playoffs is better.
I agree.
I would take every roster they played in this playoffs over them.
I agree.
Shally.
No, I agree with both you guys. I think Denver 100% won it. You know, and I thought one of the biggest factors that we highlighted before the series started, which, you know, we thought was going to be a big factor in which way the series went, was Denver's depth. You know, you have, you know, I think if you're being real honest with Miami, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Bam Adebayo, and then, you know, for lack of better terms, you really have a bunch of role players after that. You know, and I you know, to echo what both you guys said, I think they overachieved to get there. And I think Denver just had the depth. You know, you have Joker, you have Jamal Murray, you have Aaron Gordon, you have Michael Porter Jr. Like it just keeps coming and coming and coming. You know, Gene's big guy for this series was Bruce Brown Jr. And, you know, we've already touched on him a little bit, what he did, you know, in this series. They just had too much. I think they were just a better team. They're the better roster. They have a great coach in Michael Malone. I think Eric Spoelstra, I don't want to say wave the white flag, but I think a little bit after Game 4, when he described how hard Miami played on defense and they left kind of their souls on that floor and they still couldn't win, I think that was very telling, you know, to some degree what was going to happen in Game 5. And Denver gave them every chance in the world to win Game 5. They started the game 1 for 16 from 3, and Miami just couldn't put it together. They couldn't put it together. They couldn't put runs together. They couldn't pull away. They couldn't get any space. You know, and then, you know, you can't leave a team like Denver with a 6, 7, 8 point deficit throughout the whole course of the game. Because when they start making their shots, they're going to catch up, and that's what they did. And then, you know, they just pulled away in the fourth quarter. So it's, you know, I think you have to give all the credit in the world for Jimmy. Like I said, I think it's cool to see, you know, a lot of people's perception of what he was, you know, even 5-10 years ago to what he is now. And, we have a little bit of a personal thing with him because he played in Philly, and he gained a lot, a ton of fans. He's a legit leader now, and I hope Miami can retool that roster to put a couple people around him. And, because I think he's capable of winning a ring. But I think Denver was just too good. Joker they just never really found an answer for him. They made shots when they had to. And, it was a series that it all went kind of the way we all thought it was going to.
Listen, Bill, I hate agreeing with both of you guys. Like, to me, I enjoyed the debate. I enjoy being on my branch, on my other side. I cannot be on the other side. I agree. I think Denver is too good. You said it earlier, right? Nikola Jokic is the best player in the series, the MVP of the league. There's no questions there. Jamal Murray gets that light as the second option for Denver. For every right, he deserves it. But an unsung hero on that Denver team is Aaron Gordon. Go through that playoff series. Just go through what he did. He guarded LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Jimmy Butler. Give him his credit, man. That guy is a versatile defender that will not let you body him to the lane, and that is athletic enough to contest jump shots on the outside. Aaron Gordon deserves his roses. Michael Porter Jr. was great throughout the playoffs, was terrible in the finals. Yeah. Awful.
I think he shot terrible, but I will say, to his credit, even when the jump shot wasn't going in, he was still finding ways to be active on the boards. And, after he got pulled in, I think it was game 4, essentially, where Bruce Brown got more minutes than him. Game 5, he came back with a different mentality. He saw Christian Brown have success, crashing the boards, when Joker was getting double teamed, finding the cutter. So Michael Porter Jr. started doing the little things that, although his jump shot wasn't going in, he found ways to make himself a part of that Denver team that was so successful.
So I guess the question lies is, what team next year poses the biggest threat to Denver, or how likely is it? Like, give me a percentage of a repeat, knowing this is the 5th straight year with 5 different champions in the NBA. The parity is amazing right now. It's exactly where we've all wanted it for years. Where I said LeBron James ruined the NBA by creating this massive super team in Miami that in turn created a massive super team in Cleveland and in Golden State. It's back to where we all love it, right? Last year, it was Golden State. This year, it's Denver. The year before that, you're talking was that the Raptors year. And before that, it was the bubble Lakers. And before that, it was you have a whole run of NBA Finals champions, different team each year. That's what we love to see. So what percentage odds would you give Denver of getting back there? And who is the team that you think might load up this offseason and take a shot at taking them down?
Honestly, I think there's so many good teams in the NBA. My percentages is going to be lower probably than both of you guys.
No, I doubt it.
I give them a 15% chance to repeat. And the one team that I really think is going to be the team to compete with them, I have to say the Warriors. I mean, they have the superstar in Curry. They have that new core nucleus, and they also have the pieces to move around if they really want to improve that roster. They could run it back if they want to. I don't know if that'd be the right idea, but you have Poole, you have Draymond Green, who I get is an upcoming free agent, but if you want to sign and trade him to get another big name to get back on that roster, you got Andrew Wiggins. I think the Warriors just have the veteran pieces, the superstar power, and the young guys that if they want to make moves to get a better roster, or they want to stand pat and just, shore up their roster in free agency, they can do either and be right back in that championship hunt.
Interesting. Shally, who's the team for you?
I'm going to go a little higher than Cottrell. I think it's probably around 25-30%. And I say that because that roster is going to come back pretty much the way it is. I think the telling point is we don't know what the landscape is going to look like in 2 weeks when free agency starts. Obviously, you have to to some degree, you have to like Phoenix on paper. With a new coach and with Frank Vogel, they should be a little more structured. To Cottrell's pick, Golden State, like he said, and I think they try to retain Green. And, we talked about it a couple shows ago. I think they have a great trade chip in Jordan Poole because I think they want to make that move. What can they get back for Jordan Poole? I think a lot of teams are going to look a lot different. I do think free agency is going to be a little bit nuts this year, which is a good thing. It's exciting. So I think a lot of rosters are going to look different. But out of the West, for me, it's those two teams. I think they pose the greatest threats. You never know what LA does. Does LeBron strike a backdoor deal with somebody, and does he get a big piece? And we're waiting on to see what's going to happen with Chris Paul too. So I think it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I think Denver's got a 35% chance to get back, though.
Oh, you rolled it up. You went 25 to 30. Man. Now you're 30 to 35. You start feeling good, huh? You start talking about it like, I got a 15 to 20% chance for Denver, and it's not disrespect to Denver. I just feel like there's so many teams. So, let me give you a couple scenarios that I think that might play out this offseason. I think Dame Lillard ends up in Miami. Dame Lillard with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, that's a very good team. That's a good shot. I think Bradley Beal might end up in Boston. I think Bradley Beal with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown leaving, being of a true two guard and not having two wings, I think Boston has a very good chance in the East. You already mentioned Golden State. Golden State can retool. They have Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. You don't know what ends up happening with them. They have a lot of pieces. But the team I think that's best equipped going into this offseason with pieces, and I think that the Phoenix Suns get a true point guard to replace Chris Paul this offseason, and that Phoenix Suns team is the team that gets over the hump next year. I was on them this year. I was wrong. I think with the whole offseason, a new coaching staff, and I can't see a scenario in which DeAndre Ayton is back on that team next year. I can see them retooling and getting to that point where the Phoenix Suns are the team that knocks them off. But it could be any team. And I'm not saying that Denver won't win. 15%, if I did 15% for all those teams, that means they have just as good a chance as everybody. That's discarding Giannis. That's discarding the 76ers. That's discarding the Lakers. I'm not discarding any of those teams. 15% probably is the best odds to win the championship. And you'll tell that by their odds. Now, every time a champion wins, their odds are always really high and they're overvalued. But come 3-4 weeks into the regular season, I really do believe that they'll kind of map it out. They'll be an 8 or 9 to 1 favorite to win. And that's about 15%. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think the most interesting thing that you said is you brought up DeAndre Ayton. And I don't know why, but I have a feeling that Golden State might try to make a run at him. And, if anybody can get him to buy into culture, it'd be, Golden State. There's only a few teams that I think you can get DeAndre Ayton to buy into culture too. And I think Golden State can be one of those teams. Like obviously Miami as well, but they already have Bam. But I think Golden State can be that team. You want a guy who can. No one's going to slow down Joker, but you want a guy to just throw at Joker and just make him work a little bit. And DeAndre Ayton can be that guy, Obviously not when he's moping and he's just down on himself and things like that. But if he goes to Golden State and goes there with the right attitude with the guys around them, I think that could be a piece that Golden State potentially looks like this offseason.
It's funny that Dylan brings this up. I'm on board with 3 of the 4 there. I just don't want Van Vliet in Philly. I really don't. I get it. Nick Nurse guy, but we have a Nick Nurse guy. We have Tyrese Maxey. I don't need another small guard to play alongside him. I just don't want to see that. And then he asked, where does Bradley Beal go? Him and Washington agreed to find a trade partner today. Beal has a no trade cost and a max contract. I said it earlier in the show. I'll say it again. I think he goes to Boston. I think Jaylen Brown's gone in the sign and trade, and I think Boston has all the pieces to bring in a true 2 guard. I think Bradley Beal helps solidify their offense as a whole, and I think they're already one of the best defensive teams in basketball. So I think that's where Bradley Beal goes. So your thoughts on this offseason, Shally, I want to go to you first on this one. There's a lot of big pieces that are said to be rumored. Obviously, Fred VanVleet is a free agent. Bradley Beal has agreed to find a trade partner. Dame, constant talk about where he goes. Draymond Green is a free agent. What's a big splash that you see this offseason, or a player that gets moved and to where that can shake the landscape of the game?
I mean, I think we touched on two of them. I think that the whole Ayton for Jordan Poole thing almost makes too much sense. I think that allows, I think the priority there is for them to keep Draymond Green. And again, I don't think Jordan Poole plays for Golden State next year. I was on record with that a couple weeks ago. I think the Dame thing, I think it's to the point now where, we've almost had like there's smoke where there's fire type thing with him for the last couple of years. But I actually think this is the offseason. He probably gets moved. I think Portland just has to, really come to the realization that they're going to completely rebuild. He doesn't want to stay there for it. There's enough suitors in the NBA that would trade for him that they can get a good package back. So I think Dame is going to be a very, huge name that's going to get moved. And, wherever he goes, that team instantly becomes better. So it's, I think 2 weeks from now, I think it's going to be very exciting, very quick. I think you're going to see a lot of things get announced quickly and a lot of trades. Jaylen Brown is the interesting one for me because I think we have an outside chance of getting him. But he's one of the more intriguing names because obviously he's going to want a max. It's going to be a sign and trade, but he's young. He's not a guy that's going to be towards the end. Like Dame, you're hoping to get 2-3 years out of. Harden, I don't think has that much left. He's a young kid that's still, either entering his prime or at the very beginning of it. So it's Jaylen Brown would be very interesting to see where he goes.
I want to address what you guys just said, and I also want to address this. So I'm going to leave that up there for 1 second. So you guys both said DeAndre Ayton makes too much sense to go to Golden State. That is the last thing that Golden State Warriors team needs is another soft player to play in that organization. You've seen what happened this year with Jordan Poole and the whole issue with him and Draymond Green. Let DeAndre Ayton go in there and they keep Draymond Green. Draymond Green's going to punch that dude in the face. I'm telling you right now. I've never seen the only bigger quitter than DeAndre Ayton in the NBA is Ben Simmons. And that's period. DeAndre Ayton quit twice. Like, how do you allow that? You allowed it to happen once and you brought it back. He did it again. DeAndre Ayton was getting abused by Joker. And it was just laughable. It was worse than – I felt like watching that series, Shally would have a better opportunity guarding Joker than Ayton was. And that's embarrassing. Everything Ayton could do wrong, he did wrong. It was almost like he was playing for Denver. So let me get off that. I don't think that's a good fit for Golden State at all, but I'll just start there. I think Kevon Looney is a more valuable centerpiece in that team than DeAndre Ayton ever will be. But let's get off that for a minute. Dylan said, I don't know if you heard Cheap Seats Monday night, Dylan. Call me crazy, but my Pacers need 1 star to pair with Benedict Mathurin, who I call oatmeal, just heat him up, and Tyrese Halliburton. Let us get a Jaylen Brown or a Dame-type star, and we're a legitimate threat in the East. I don't disagree with you. I love Benedict Mathurin. And pairing him with all-around point guard like Tyrese Halliburton and getting someone to come in there like a superstar would be awesome. Problem is, Indiana is not a huge spot for free agents. They do not want to sign there. You almost have to home grow your team to go play in Indiana. It's not an attractive spot like Miami, LA, Philadelphia, Boston. It's not an attractive spot like that. So that's why I think, Indiana gets the short end of the stick. I've seen a crazy scenario where Golden State trades Jordan Poole for Rudy Gobert. Both teams swapping a garbage contract. Both need to fill a need. The French fry doesn't deserve any conversation on this podcast. That might go down as the worst trade I ever seen in my entire life. What the Utah Jazz fleeced Minnesota for? Was that 4 first-round draft picks and 2 pick swaps for Rudy Gobert? Is that a real thing?
You already had a center. You already have like one of the best centers in the league. I don't know how you put that much value in that pick. But this offseason, I got 2 moves that I think have the potential to shake up some landscape. Neither one of them are going to be championship-winning moves, but I think it's going to make both teams better. The report came out today that, for the right deal, the Pelicans would look to move Zion Williamson this summer.
No thanks.
And, obviously he can't stay on the court, but Zion Williamson's one of those pieces when he's playing, he's very dominant. I think the Blazers could potentially trade that number 3 pick send Scoot over to New Orleans. They get Zion Williamson, and they see what can happen.
Tell you, get fired real fast.
I just don't understand how New Orleans comes out. Like, I can't stop laughing. How New Orleans comes out. For the right deal, we're willing to trade Zion.
Yeah.
What? He hasn't played a full NBA season if you combine all years.
No, I mean, look, I get it for sure, but
for the right deal, we'll trade a guy we paid the max contract that doesn't have 82 career games.
You got to find a way to like I said, when he's playing, he's very good. Those 65 games, that full season that he played in New Orleans, he was very good there. So I could see a team maybe if they can get a cheaper deal than what superstars typically go for. Not saying Zion's a superstar, but if you get less than Rudy we saw Rudy Gobert just went for. So if you get a package deal for, less than that, maybe 2 firsts and, a player or whatever, I think that could be really interesting. And the other one I think that can happen is a sign and trade with Jaylen Brown reuniting with his former coach, Ime Udoka, and going to the Houston Rockets, being a leader in that locker room and pairing with that young talent. Now, I don't think that's not a championship winning move, but I think that's a move that can help get the Rockets to the playoffs. I love their young talent already, and you pair a guy like Jaylen Brown there. I think it's a great move for them.
I mean, they have enough pieces that if that became a thing, they have enough to send back to Boston to make it work. So I'll agree with that. But
I could see that happen. That's not something that I just can't. I can't take any trade for Zion seriously.
Stop.
I can't. Let me ask you a question real quick. Just fun question. Who do you think plays more basketball games next year, Zion or Ja? Number 1 and number 2 picks in that draft.
If I knew,
I take Zion.
If I knew what Ja's number was, oh man,
that's the whole point. You don't know the number.
I know, but
Zion Williamson literally said, "I'm fine. I'm just waiting to be mentally right to come back." Why his team was in the playoffs.
Well, he's mentally right enough to go around banging OnlyFans models and getting in trouble with everything else. So he can seem to be concentrating on basketball too much.
Jeez.
It's not even bringing the off court distraction factor of Zion at this point. One of these girls is gonna stab him. They ain't gonna play at all.
All right, next year, would you rather have Zion Williamson or Ben Simmons?
I'll stir the pot. I'll go Ben.
I'll take Zion.
Yeah, I think I'd still take Zion.
We know you will for sure.
Yeah,
but I think this upcoming offseason is also going to be interesting because a guy who doesn't play a lot either, but can change the course of a team. Kawhi Leonard might be on the move this offseason. I could see that happening, and the Clippers getting rid of him, just cutting bait.
Done. He's done.
The dude don't have the heart to play more than 45 games.
I don't know if it's the heart. I just don't think he has the body.
I do, man. She's just he doesn't look anywhere near as engaged or as interested as he used to.
I don't think he's ever looked engaged, if I'm being honest. I think that's just him.
I don't think it's hard. I think his body's really just giving out on him.
Yeah, I think his ligaments just don't work how they should.
I agree. So I want to kind of ask one last question. Not one last question. I want to make a statement. I want to make a statement on air. I got 15 people live watching, and I'm sure we had 800 live listeners last week. I think that Victor Wembanyama is going to be a guy that gets quadruple doubles multiple times. Only done 5 times in NBA, 4 times in NBA history. And I want to make a statement. I think that man's going to record multiple quad doubles in his career. So I wanted to say that out loud, and I really just wanted to get that on record before he gets drafted. I think you will see the creator of the quad double, Victor Wembanyama. Just wanted to get that out there.
And blocks being the
yes, at 7'3", that versatile. Yes, I think he'll have multiple 10 block games in his career.
I know we'll do our draft show next week. Wembanyama is going to be obviously a problem. The biggest question mark with him is going to be how his ligaments hold up moving at the NBA speed and the way he plays the game. I mean, you saw you saw KD. KD was fine, up until he blew his Achilles, and he came back. He came back still, a great player, but Wembanyama's even taller and even more slim. So I'm as great as I think he'll be. I'm curious to see if or when that injury bug and that body type just falls over.
I got to give David Burns a little shout out real quick. He says watching from Cedar Hill, Texas. Congrats to the Denver Nuggets for winning the NBA Finals. But this one comment I got to put up here real quick. David, I appreciate you listening to the show. We love you, but I hate me some Dallas Cowboys. So I just wanted to say that out loud. You are our friend, a friend of the show, but an enemy come NFL football season. Dylan said they're sending Zion to Charlotte to get Scoot. If you could get a healthy Zion and Melo, be mentored by Michael Jordan, you might have a nice ass squad. I thought Michael Jordan's given up on that team.
Well, I think he's trying to sell it. And also, I mean, the rumor has it that Charlotte's not going to go Scoot. They're going to go Brandon Miller. So I don't know if that's going to come to fruition either.
I think he's saying, like, if the Pelicans get the pick, then Scoot would be the one that's going to New Orleans. New Orleans loves Scoot, apparently.
No one loves Zion, so they're screwed.
Which is also true.
Any last comments? We got the draft next week. We'll do our little draft preview special. It's happening, Thursday night, next Thursday?
Yep.
So we'll be on the day before, which is beautiful. We'll talk about it a little bit more then. Any last thoughts going into the offseason NBA before we change topics?
No, I mean, my only thing is I think this might be the year where you'll see the most stars get traded in recent history. Like, I think you'll see a big change.
I think that has everything to do with the new agreement that's in place for the NBA Players Association and the league. That hard salary cap, no more mid-level exceptions with 3 max players. You're not going to be able to roll that hard. They have a hard salary cap now.
Yep.
Jay Jones, shout out to Jay, newest member of Sports Empire Network. Where does Beal land? I think he lands in Boston. I said that earlier. I think Beal gets traded to Boston in a sign and trade. I believe there's a 3-team deal. I think they dump Beal's contract. I think Jaylen Brown goes where he wants to go, and Washington gets all the capital that they want out of that deal.
See,
as long as it's not Philly, I don't care.
I'm shocked that you wouldn't want Bradley Beal.
Yeah, he doesn't play either.
I mean,
how many games has that guy missed the last 3 years?
Let's figure. I mean, he also played on a team in which they shut him down.
That he decided to stay on over and over.
They paid him.
And over again.
They paid him, so
that's fine. I don't want the contract either.
I just looked this games up. You can't say that. 82-80 last 6 years. 82-82, 57, 60, 40, and 50. And 40 was the year. But what?
So 2 of the last 4 years he's missed half the season.
Yes, and
cool. Let's pay him $40 million.
Washington
Sounds good to me.
Shut him down twice when they were out of it. They shut him down.
I'm good.
For what it's worth, I think Bradley Beal. I got Bradley Beal going to Miami. I think that's where he's been trying to get for the last 3-4 years, up until Washington was like, you know what, we're going to give you the max. And then at that point, he was like, yeah, I'll wait on Miami. I'll wait a couple years, because they'll still pay me, but I want to get my money now.
Like, you guys have both mentioned Miami. Like, what does Miami have to trade?
You don't need to trade anything for Bradley Beal. The Wizards are just trying to dump the contract.
For Dame, you do, though.
For Dame, you do, yes.
Yeah, but I don't see Dame going to Miami. Honestly, I don't see Dame leaving Portland. I think Portland tries one last effort to
Who the hell said Dame was going to Miami earlier?
I did.
That was Gene.
Oh, so what?
I think it would be Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, and a first-round draft pick would get it done.
Ugh.
I really believe that. I think that Portland's trying to retool.
They're definitely retooling.
Like, completely rebuild. And I think if you go Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, and a first-round draft pick, and then they have the number 3 overall pick, and they use that to get a guy like Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson, I feel like that's a young team that you can build around and start the process of rebuilding for them. That was where my trade target was. I thought it would be Hero, a guy like Caleb Martin, and a first-round draft pick.
I mean, definitely will be interesting to see. I mean, I also think it'll be interesting to see if teams make a move to kind of combat what Denver did this year. Like, obviously no one stops Joker, but do teams put together an effort to get a guy that you can throw on Joker to just somewhat make him uncomfortable, just because of how dominant this stretch was for him in the playoffs?
I mean, I get it. There's not that many big bodies in the NBA that are going to just make him uncomfortable. I think the biggest thing, and Miami proved it, the biggest thing you have to do is not completely double him, because he always finds the right guy to pass the ball to. Like, if he's going to put 35 on you, that's fine. You just got to make sure the other guys don't put up 25 plus, in my opinion. But everybody's got
I agree.
I think when you double him, you make him more dangerous.
He's
And I
still going to
think it
score
makes their whole
25
team-
if you double him. And then, like you said, then when you give them the ability for Jamal Murray or, you know, any of those other guys, instead of scoring 10 to score 22, that's how Denver kills you. Because Joker's still going to get his 25, and then he's going to have 15 assists, and then you're going to have the rest of the team bombing away. And if they're hitting shots, then that's how you get smoked.
100%. And I think Dylan's comment about the Nuggets being insanely deep, I think it's so accurate. They got Peyton Watson on their bench, who really didn't play any minutes at all in this entire season, really. And he was in my opinion, one of the best prospects to come out last year. And then they got a guy in Colin Gillespie, who obviously, you know, NBA wise, you know, nothing really there, but I think he can eventually be a piece that
He'll
helps
give you 15
win.
minutes a night, though.
So
he's capable of giving you 15 minutes a night. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get him. I mean, let me listen. That was the one word that, you know, we talked about a lot in the preview was depth, and they're deep, and you saw it. They just overwhelmed Miami.
And when one of their big guys had an off night, another guy came off the bench and dropped 21. And that's what the sign of a championship roster. I think Denver is deep. I think they are loaded, but I don't think they repeat. There's just too much depth in the NBA. Too many good teams. All right, so let's move on to the NHL. The Golden Knights of Las Vegas, in a dominant performance in Game 5, take down the Florida Panthers in their miracle run. Shally, start us off, break it down. And in reality, did either Florida team have a chance?
No, I mean, I told you I was pretty sure Florida didn't. I thought maybe Miami did, you know, kind of needle in a haystack type deal. But listen, I mean, very similar to the NBA. You know, we said it was going to be Florida's top line, you know, kind of like Miami Heat's Butler and Adebayo versus the world. Las Vegas was just too deep, three lines that could score, you know, and when you factor in everything else, Pietrangelo, the defense, they shut down that first line for most of the series. Florida won that one game in overtime. And other than that, I mean, it was a lot of Vegas and not a lot of Florida. Vegas ended up with three guys with over 20 points. You know, it's when you factor that in, and Aiden Hill severely outplayed Bobrovsky, which I thought was the one, you know, kind of, I don't want to say glaring, but it was the one thing that I thought was firmly in the advantage column for Florida. They didn't get the goaltending there either. Same kind of deal, man. They went on this miracle run. They knocked out Boston, then beat Toronto, you know, beat Carolina to get to the finals, who were all drastically better teams during the regular season. They just kind of ran out of gas, and Vegas was just that good. Vegas, you know, was to some degree flew under the radar this year, which was kind of crazy. Everybody was expecting Colorado to make that run again. You had Edmonton with Connor McDavid. Dallas was great. You know, they made a great run through the Western Conference to get to the finals as well. And they're just deep. They're solid. They're a team that, you know, it's that old adage, you know, don't make the mistakes that, you know, lose you games. Just concentrate on doing the little things that'll help you win games. That's Vegas to a T. Jack Eichel, you know, what's his face? Mark Stone and Jonathan Marchessault won the Conn Smythe. They were all great, man.
Mark Stone had 24 points in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And he had 38 points the entire regular season.
Mm-hmm.
That's absurd.
I mean, they weren't
13 assists.
Yep. I mean, they weren't healthy all year. They were kind of a team that patched it together and kept winning, but then they got to, about a month before the season ended, they got everybody back and they kind of got in there. They figured out their lines and they hit the playoffs at the right time in the middle of their stride where they want to be, and they just smoked people. Last night they won 9-3. Like that was an absolute mollywhopping.
I had 3 field goals and Florida only had 1. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's football.
Yeah. Not good when it comes to NHL scores though. So
I will say, obviously Florida got blew out this past game. Florida was fighting, man, but Vegas, every time Florida gave you anything, Vegas just came back with a haymaker, and Florida was like, man, here we go again. Like it really felt like Vegas was just kind of big brother in Florida, in a sense that, like I said, every time Florida was fighting back, Vegas had an answer for him. And even specifically in the game that Florida won, overtime, it really felt like, Florida scored the first goal. It's like, all right, maybe we got a series on our hands here. I feel like not even 15 minutes later, Vegas struck back, and it was like, yeah, that takes all the air out the building. So, and Florida won that game.
Florida needed that miracle goal with like 30 seconds to go to force overtime, and they won in overtime. But, for big stretches of that game, Las Vegas was still the better team. That was the one game that Bobrovsky had that really he kind of won the game for Florida.
Florida played well both games at home, but in Vegas, they got smacked.
Yeah.
I'm just doing quick math off the top of my head. I think it was 21-7, the score in Vegas. I think it was 9-3, 5-2, and 7-2. So that would be 9-7, that's 16, 5, 21, and then 3-2-2, that's 7. Yeah, 21-7. That was off the top of my head. I'm not bad. 21-7 was the score in Vegas. 5-5 was the score in Florida.
Yeah, listen, it's not an easy place to go play.
No.
The fans, the fans have really taken to that franchise. I never thought Vegas would be that much of a hockey town, and it is absolutely, one of the craziest places to go play. Listen, there's a good, solid hockey team. It came out after the series over, though. Matthew Tkachuk was getting a bunch of, I want to say, criticism, per se, but it leaked out today that he played the final 2 games with a broken sternum. That's nuts to me. Hockey players are just different, man. They're the toughest professional athletes. I will stand by that any day of the week. They're just crazy. Vegas came out. There's a couple guys that were playing with broken feet. It's always wild at the end of the NHL season to see how banged up some of these guys are, and they play. And it's like the week after the season's over, like half the roster's in for different kind of surgeries. It's nuts, man. Hockey players are just built different. They are a little. You have to be a little bit crazy to be a professional NHL player. You really do.
It's fact. I don't disagree with you. Now, what odds do you give Las Vegas of going back to the Stanley Cup and winning? Higher, lower than when you gave Denver? I feel like it's got to be lower because if you're talking about depth in the NBA, there's so much depth in hockey. There's so many great teams in hockey, like Colorado, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Boston. Like there's so many teams that could be legit contenders in NHL.
So just like NBA, free agency is going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little bit, telling with the NHL as well. You got to remember Boston. Boston is not going to have the same roster next year. Pierre Bergeron is most likely retiring. They're going to lose a couple other pieces. They are not going to be as strong as they were this year. Carolina should pretty much be about the same. New Jersey's a team that really intrigues me in the East. Tampa Bay's getting old. They're going to have to, eventually they're going to have to start kind of retooling that team a little bit. Out west is the big question because you have Dallas still. Most of that team is intact. Vegas will still be back. Colorado is going to be healthy next year. So, they lost McKinnon for certain spurts this year. Landeskog didn't play almost the entire year. He's their captain. He'll be back next year. And then Edmonton's kind of the wild card. Can Edmonton get a goalie? If Edmonton could somehow get a goalie in free agency that's a legit number one, Edmonton's a problem. So the offseason will still be, will be very interesting for the NHL as well. I'm looking forward to both of them. I will go lower. I'll say 15 to 20% for Vegas, just because the NHL playoffs are such a grind. It's such a grind, and you saw it this year with Vegas. They hit their stride with about a month ago in the regular season, got into the playoffs and beat everybody. It happens every year in the NHL. There's always one team. You look at Florida. Florida again, 8 seed went and beat the team that everybody was calling the best regular season team in the history of the game. So momentum and playing well at the right time really factors into the NHL playoffs. So as good as Las Vegas is, I'll go lower. I'll say 20% tops.
I'm going to go 12.5.
Very detailed answer there.
12.5. That's you understand why I say 12.5? Try to give me a look. Would you like me to break it down for you? It's a 1 in 8 shot.
I would love to hear your NHL playoff percentage analysis.
It's a 1 in 8 shot. 12.5 times 2 is 25. It's a 1 in 8 shot. I think they're an 8-1 team.
I'm fine with it. I like it.
If I had to give them a percentage, I mean, I'd probably be closer to where you guys are. I don't want to say 12.5%, but somewhere between 10 and 15. I say 10. I'll say 10 to just be
somewhere in between 10 and 15. You gave me a look when I said 12 and a half. Somewhere in between 10 and 15.
Yeah, but I can't go 12 and a half to be right there with you. But I mean, I think the teams that I'm most excited for next year definitely be Toronto and definitely be Edmonton. I mean, I think if you can get a final with Matthews and McDavid, sign me up. Let's get the faces of the NHL in the big one and let them go after it. So that's
there's rumors Toronto might blow it up. So we'll see.
I hope not.
I mean, I don't think I think they'll keep Matthews, but I think Marner and a bunch of other guys, I think there's a chance, they're just strapped for money. So, I mean, it's either kind of run it back with the same thing and keep beating your head against the door and hope that it works one time, or, you got to make moves.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts on the NHL before we move on to Mrs. GOAT?
Flyers look like they're going to completely tear it down.
Good. They stink.
They do stink. But if they got a bunch of people in charge right now that are kind of, for lack of a better term, very inexperienced at the positions they hold. The one rumor they have, I mean, the one person that's been attached to Edmonton already is Carter Hart. If he goes there, Edmonton is a bona fide top 2 or 3 favorite to go to the Stanley Cup next year. And if the Flyers trade Carter Hart, the guy that we've been looking for, I don't know, for only like 2 decades at this point, I'm done with the effing Flyers. I can't stress that enough. I will root for another NHL team next year. I'm dead serious.
If you want to root for another bad franchise, just become a Blue Jackets fan.
No, I mean, no. If I'm going to give up my fandom, I have to root for somebody good.
Oh, you can't do that.
I'm not going
back into give up fandom and then go to a good team. You have to go to a bad team and rise with them.
What are you, Freddie?
Yeah, Freddie going from the Rams to the Giants. You can't do that. I'm
over this Flyers team right now.
Saying I've been over them. I gave up on them. All right, gentlemen. First of all, Charles Oliveira fans, you're welcome. Every time I pick against that man, he wins. Every time I pick him, he loses. I picked him versus Islam. It was like a last-second spring of justice. I'm like, he's going to beat Islam. Nope. So I'll be picking Islam when he faces Charles for the second time because they're going to rerun that. Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush was a really exciting 4 minutes and 15 seconds.
That it was.
I'll give Beneil credit. Beneil had no fear in getting in there, taking him down, getting on the ground with Charles. No fear. But, man, he got kicked with a couple up kicks that would knock me out cold. And then he got caught on the feet, and it was just – that was it. I didn't have Charles Oliveira by KO on my bingo board. It was not there. But Charles Oliveira, first-round knockout, give him all the credit in the world. The guy finds ways to win fights. Let's give Charles his roses before we get into Amanda.
Yeah,
Bronx.
no, 100%. You know, I think Charles went into that fight too with the chip on his shoulder. You know, if you saw Charles at weigh-ins, I think he came in at 154, and I don't think that was accidental. I think he did that to prove a point. You know, obviously, you know, he had the weight issues before and things like that. I think he came in at 154 to show, hey, not only am I making weight this time around, but I'm locked in, and you know, I know why I'm here, and I have this greater purpose. And so right away, I knew, you know, Charles was going to be locked in from that moment. Now, I was not expecting that fight to go the way it did. You know, I thought Beneil would be a little bit more dominant, and at times during that 4 minutes, he was. But Charles,
crazy times during that 4 minutes.
during
like
that
Beneil Dariush 32 out of 59 strikes in 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you stretch that fight over 8 minutes, it still would have been a great fight, you know. So like just stretch out the exact punches, just make them last over 8 minutes. It still was a great fight, but you got to give all the credit in the world to Charles, because no matter what, that kid is ready for whatever position he's in, he's ready to go.
I just love that Control literally said, like, for long stretches of the 4 minute fight, Dariush was in complete control.
They threw 100 strikes in 4 minutes.
Yeah, listen,
Charles
is not afraid to get hit. There's one thing we know about him. He is not afraid to sit there and bang. I don't know what the odds were for him to win by TKO or in the first round. That's probably nuts, but got to give him credit, man. I think he's just in that weird position where he could beat literally everybody in the division except the guy that he needs to, and that's just a sucky place to be. And I feel like that's kind of where he's going to reside. I agree with Gene. I think we see it again. I just don't think the outcome's any different.
I think it's really interesting to me that Charles tried to cut a promo after his fight, and it was really
in English.
English
nonetheless,
bad,
bro. It was bad.
Well, he's not good at English.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my title back. It's my title. It's sitting on somebody else. No, you got knocked out, bro. It's not your title. It's not your title when you get knocked out. Like when it got stripped from him because of weight, I could see you saying that. If there was a decision and you were the champion and it was a controversial decision, I could see that. That's not what happened.
No, I'm with you, but hey, I always say this. I respect the guys who are from other countries, and you know, it's important that shtick that you have. It's important in the UFC, and so I respect Charles. His whole career, we've never heard him speak in English ever. And then he comes out after this fight. He's just, you know, he's talking that talk in English. And I love it. But I don't think we see that fight next. I think the winner of Gaethje Poirier is going to get the next shot at Islam, just because that's going to be a fresh fight. And then I think Charles will be next up after that.
It's Charles. Charles already beat Gaethje and Poirier. They're already.
I know, but Islam's already faced Charles, and you got to throw first faces at Islam.
I guess.
I disagree. I think it's going to be Charles. Thank you for correcting me, Dylan. He was submitted after he got knocked down. I get it.
Strawberry banana is the best body armor, though.
That is incorrect. Right. The Mamba. Mamba forever right here.
It is definitely Mamba, and the close second is Tropical Punch.
No, Tropical Punch is junk.
Tropical Punch is terrible.
Oh, come on, guys. Come on.
We're cutting a promo for Body Armor right now. Hit us up, Body Armor. We'll cut a promo for you.
Yeah. But somebody get a hold of Trout.
I have to read something off to you guys. Are we ready to talk about the Lioness?
The Lioness.
I have to read something out to you. In 2014, Kat Zingano knocked out Amanda Nunes in the third round at UFC 178. Ever since that fight, Amanda Nunes has not only ran through the division, she has beat some of the biggest names that you have ever heard.
Ever.
Started with Shayna Baszler, Sarah McMahon, Valentino Shevchenko, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey in an absolute dominant performance, Raquel Pennington, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, Jermaine De Randame, Felicia Spencer, Megan Anderson, Juliana Pena, and Irina Aldana. With one blemish to Juliana Pena in December 11th of last year.
It's about as good as a gauntlet that there's ever been.
Well, I need to make that point for this point here. I want to listen. I follow Juliana Pena from The Ultimate Fighter when she beat Ronda's best fighter, the first fight, and she was given no chance to do it. She was on Team Miesha Tate, and Ronda Rousey took Miesha Tate's friend, Miesha Tate's friend was Juliana Pena. She took her first overall. Miesha went and stopped the number one pick for Ronda Rousey. Biggest favorite in The Ultimate Fighter. But I'm going to ask you guys a question, especially to everybody in the chat. How many of you truly knew and followed Juliana Pena throughout her career and thought she was a household name?
I don't think she's a. I don't think she's a. I mean,
no. Before Amanda's fight, before the Amanda win,
I think if you're more than a casual fan, you know who she is.
A comparable male fighter would have been Michael Johnson.
That I disagree with.
I'm telling you, a gatekeeper in the 135 division that's never won anything. She got one big fight in her career. I'm telling the truth. She gets a win versus Amanda Nunes, which is one of the greatest wins ever, one of the biggest upsets in UFC history.
For sure.
She goes into the next fight, doesn't get stopped, give her all the credit in the world, but she gets dog walked for 5 rounds. Lost 4-1, absolutely dominated, 5-0 on some cards, 4-1 on mine. This woman is retiring in the middle of the ring from a fight that Juliana pulled out because she was hurt. She's retiring in the ring, and Juliana's in the crowd screaming at her. Don't compare yourself to Anderson Silva and acting like a petulant child. I know these two don't like each other, but respect is respect no matter where it comes from. Is there ever been a bigger rivalry of non-respect than Daniel Cormier and John Jones? But yet Cormier and Jones will still speak highly of each other in interviews and give each other respect.
You take the shots still, though, both, too. Like, everything is, like, backhanded with them guys. Like, John Jones will say, like, Daniel is, like, my, toughest competitor ever, but he still sucks. Like, that's how they both that's how they both talk about each other. Like, everything, it starts out positive, but it's like they leave on the parting shot all the time.
Okay, well, fine. But
no, I'm giving credence to what you're saying. I mean, it's, John and Daniel is, I think, you have John and Daniel, you have Khabib, Conor. Trying to think of the other ones that have been like actually like really personal, where it's like a personal level type thing.
Jorge and Ben.
Jorge and Colby now.
Jorge and Colby's another one.
But let me read this out to you guys, because I just want to explain to you who Juliana Pena was, because I followed her career. I have since the Ultimate Fighter.
She had a couple wins that I don't know about Michael.
Kat Zingano, both decisions, big wins. Got destroyed by Valentina. She beat Nico Montana. I remember her from the Ultimate Fighter with Eddie Alvarez. She lost to Jermaine De Radame. She beat Sarah McMahon. She was 2-2 in her last 4 fights into that championship fight. 2-2 in her last 4 fights going into the Amanda fight. And got the win versus Amanda.
The big part of this is
she thinks she's like Amanda shouldn't retire because she's got to finish the trilogy. No. Are we serious?
I can respect Juliana for feeling that way, but how she went about it, I don't like. Obviously, and I get it. Amanda dominated her the last fight, but hey, trilogy one, Juliana knows that that's the biggest money fight that she's ever going to have.
That is the biggest reason
with the Amanda
Does
trilogy.
it mean you drop class?
I'm not
100%
agree with
and
you.
I'm not condoning what she did. I'm not saying she went about it the right way, but I understand why Juliana feels that way. That's all I'm saying. She went about it completely wrong, but I get why she feels like that.
Her only shot at another big payday in the UFC, just retired.
So, like, the thing that bothered me, if you watch the first Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena fight, I'm telling seriously, go back and rewatch that fight. I'm telling you, Amanda Nunes missed the haymaker ender in that fight by less than a half an inch 5 times. Like, she just missed clipping her, just touched her. I'm serious. The closest you can ever come to hitting the no-hitter quitter in that fight, and she just kept missing and kept missing. And I get it. Duck and weave. Juliana got it out of the way. I understand what happened. But to act like that fight wasn't a fluke, it was a fluke. It was Michael Sarah versus George St. Pierre.
Okay.
Sarah, Jesus. It was Matt Sarah, George St. Pierre.
I can get what you're saying, but I also don't think that fight was. I think both these instances, that fighter was just better that night. I don't want to say it's a fluke though, because fluke, I think of something like, if you want to call Conor against Jose a fluke because it was just one punch that ended it all, I'd be with you there. But it wasn't like it was just one strike. It was just one strike that put Amanda out. This was, in a sense, it was somewhat calculated. Amanda gassed and Juliana took advantage. So I don't want to say it's a fluke because there was more that went into it than just, one punch, one, lucky punch or a lucky strike or anything like that.
Was it a fluke, Shally? Come on. Shally, come to the dark side. It was a fluke. The dark side, the water's warm. Come on in.
Well, that's what's going to happen when I get on that branch. We're going to fall in the goddamn water. It is. Man. I hate saying fluke things when it comes to professional athletes. Only because, like you said, like, was Amanda Nunes probably half an inch away from finishing the fight like 5 times, maybe. But like you were saying too, like Pena was moving. Like you have to give her credit for not getting hit. Like that's part of fighting. I don't want to say it's a fluke. I think it was an extremely, extremely highly unlikely outcome going into that match.
Dylan's right.
Yeah, Dylan's right. I mean, it's
Pena was throwing good jabs, and Amanda refused to move her head. She didn't give her any credit. She didn't give her any respect.
And then she gassed.
Absolutely correct. I agree. I just felt like Amanda knew she was going to run through her, and then she didn't. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? She knew, I'm going to run through this woman, and then she didn't. Like, she missed on all those haymakers that she caught Chris Cyborg with or Ronda Rousey with. She missed on them.
The funny thing is, though, is that you see that happen, though. Now, I'm not going to say all the time with people who hold the belt all the time, but you see it happen. I mean, Anderson Silva didn't take Chris Weidman seriously, and he got knocked out, So
you're right. That's a very fair point.
We saw it recently, and I'm not saying Kamaru wasn't taking Leon seriously, but he got caught, got knocked out. The first time, got caught, got knocked out. You just see it happen. Champions take their foot off the gas for whatever reason.
Do you have Amanda Nunes in your top 5 UFC fighters of all time, male or female?
I don't, actually.
Okay, that's fine. It's okay if you don't.
You know why? You know why I don't, Gene? I got your boy ahead of Amanda.
That's fine. He should be ahead of her.
All right, but who are your other 4 then?
He has Mighty Mouse, Silva, John Jones, and GSP. Am I right?
Correct. That's correct.
I can respect that 5. I'm okay with that 5. I'm all right with that 5. I just think that if I'm being honest with myself, I think Amanda has accomplished more in her division than Demetrius has in his.
And she did in 2 divisions.
Correct. No, I have Demetrius one behind her. I have Amanda 5.
No, she did not do it in 2 divisions. They
145, she closed the division down. What do you mean she didn't do it in 2 divisions?
They created the division for her to fight Cyborg. Yes, they did.
Holly
Yes, they did.
Was fighting in that division before she even had that fight.
Do you know why though? That's because Amanda Nunes and Cyborg didn't get signed. They literally brought Cyborg to the UFC because Cyborg said the only way I'm going to the UFC is I can fight 145, and the only person that would fight Amanda for the UFC would have been Cyborg at that point. Then Amanda got hurt, and so Cyborg fought. She fought someone first for the title, went on a little win streak there. Then she beat Cyborg, and pretty much no one's challenged her for the 145 belt since then. So there's been 6 fights ever in the 145 division. So I'm not going to say she just dominated this division. It was just a random division.
I'm just saying that she
held
it at 2 weight classes.
It was a random division,
she had
and no one
belts.
challenged her.
Yeah, but I would say that, but she fought the best opponent on the planet in that weight division and absolutely devastated her.
She did, and I give her all the credit in the world for that. But that's not just holding down a division that they. I mean, essentially, it's a catchweight division in my mind.
I have her in front of Johnson. I just don't. She accomplished too much. I mean,
you ever had a Habib?
No.
Okay. So I have Amanda 5. And if I'm really being honest with myself, John Jones has to be in my top 4. I just hate doing it because I don't like guys that abuse the system, hit women. I just don't. And I always like slant him for that. But if I'm being honest, he's just the most dominant UFC fighter I've ever watched in my life. And I hate that. And he makes it very fun for me to root against him. Although, can we all agree that Francis Ngannou did the right thing by not staying in the UFC because John would have ran through him just like he ran through Cyril Gane?
I tend to agree with you, but the one thing with Francis is that when you have that kind of power, Francis could get lucky and hit John with the falling away, just overhand right, and that puts John out. So while I do agree, I think John would have won that fight, and I think it could have got ugly, especially if John mixes in his wrestling and things like that. But Francis is scary, man.
I'm dead serious, bro. I'm more scared of John Jones at heavyweight. I watched John Jones walk in that ring at heavyweight. That's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's scarier than I. If you had a choice, right, a normal random human being with a gun or John Jones at heavyweight, I'm taking the normal random human being with a gun. Like I have no chance versus John Jones at heavyweight. At least the guy might have a bad aim, the shooter. I don't have no idea. But I might even plead with them to put the gun down and give me a fair one. But I'm not going in there versus John Jones at heavyweight. Absolutely not. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, I'm not. I'll get my ass kicked by John Jones before I take a bullet. No thanks. I'm good.
Gene's thinking about he thinks he can talk the guy down.
Good luck. In sales, Cottrell. I can talk him down a little bit. You don't want to do this, sir. Fist fight doesn't even get you any time in jail. A bullet, you're in jail for a while.
I guess.
It's interesting. So what do you see next for the 135 division? Do you think that – so it's funny. I'll pull up the 135, the UFC Women's 135 rankings. Do you think that Valentina now comes up?
I do.
I think she no. I don't think she comes up right away.
I do. I think it gives her just another great chance to become somebody on the short list that becomes a 2-belt champ. I'm not saying she wouldn't have fought Nunes, but the hill there was a lot bigger to beat her and take one of her belts. I think it's the perfect opportunity for it to at least try it. At least go up, try it, and see if you can become a 2-belt champ.
I think Valentina has unfinished business. I don't think she's happy that Alexa Grasso took her belt. I think she's going to fight her again. And I think she'd be next in line. Yeah, like she doesn't have to fight anybody else before she fights Alexa Grasso. So I think she does that right away. And then I think Dylan hit it right on the head. I think you get Juliana Pena against Raquel Pennington. Pennington should be, somewhat fresh. She was originally supposed to fight Irene Aldana before they moved her up to this fight against Amanda Nunes. And then as soon as Pena's healthy, you get her in camp and you get them going. And I think you could probably get that fight going before the end of the summer. So I think that's the fight for the vacant belt.
I think it's going to be Pena versus Pennington too. That's my same reaction. Is there anybody in the 135? I know you guys don't follow women's UFC as much as I do, but is there anybody you see in the 135? I'll read out the top 10 for you if you want. The 135 division for women's is really brutal right now. It's Pena, Raquel Pennington, Ketlin Vieira, Holly Holm, Irene Aldana, Macy Chiasson, Pani Kizad. Josane Nunez is a little bit of a name to look out for. But there's really not much in that division. There's not much there.
No, I mean, Holly Holm at least has name recognition, but she's old.
Holly Holm's not, in my opinion, I don't think Holly Holm is championship.
I agree.
Material.
But I mean, she could probably beat anybody else that's on that damn list. I mean, it's just, it's slim pickings. Honestly, if you're dating, you probably hope Shevchenko wants to, because at least he can put a belt on her and, at least make money off of it. Nobody's paying to watch any of those people fight.
That's very true, but in a sense, I kind of wonder if Juliana wins the belt, she holds it for, let's say, 2, maybe 3 title defenses. She starts talking her talk. Maybe that's enough to bring Amanda out of retirement.
I think that I hope Amanda. I think Amanda's done too.
So do I.
I think so too, but I mean, her wife. They said her wife, after she gives birth, she's going to be back in the UFC, and with fighters, you never know when they're really done.
I get it, but I think they're also in a different spot. They do have a kid now. I think Amanda's been fighting nonstop for so long. Like I think she wants to be done. I think she wants to go be a mom, and if her wife wants to come back and fight, and that's fine. I think Amanda's over the schedule and over the constant fighting, being hurt, fighting. I think she just wants to go be a mom. I think there's times you watch people retire and you're like, you can see it in their face. Like they kind of don't want to, there's still that desire, in their mind and, what they want to do. She looked really at peace with it. She really did. I would be shocked if she comes back.
Agreed.
Only reason why I say I wouldn't be shocked is because, I really think, and I did see that too, Dylan. She said her mom told her to stop. But when you're a fighter and that's all and you get, let's say, 2 years off, 3 years off, and you've had that time with your daughter, and it's like, okay, well, I only got to train for 3 months or 4 months, and then I get back with my belt, and then I'm really done this time, or anything like that. I think Dana welcomes her back with open arms no matter what, so she can take as much time as she wants to, and she'll still be welcome, and she'd still be on top of that division. So that's the only reason why I think she still could consider coming back.
This sounds so terrible, but I really believe you could take a Ronda Rousey off the street, give her 4 or 5 months of training, and she can win the 135 belt as it's currently constructed.
I don't think you're getting that.
I really believe that. That's how bad 135 is right now.
I don't think Ronda would beat Juliana Pena right now.
Ooh.
So the funny thing is, it's funny, but I'm going to ask you this question, and it's kind of a joke, and we're going to lead to the joke. So you guys, we've already gotten the conversation of Jean versus Ronda Rousey. We've had that conversation on air before of what would happen between a 300-pound male that's not really a physically UFC trained fighter. You think Juliana Pena beats me too?
Yeah,
I'm serious. You think Juliana Pena beats me?
I do.
There's no way.
Juliana has jiu-jitsu. I think she could find a way to leg sweep you, and then you're just out of there.
I don't see it. What were you about to say, Shai? Shai sounded like he was about to take my side for a minute. Go ahead, Shao.
No, I'm not taking your side. If I said if she gets you on the ground, she beats you.
How does she get me on the ground?
You might fall, bro.
I think
I
she
might fall.
chops your leg, or you like reach to grab her and she ducks and then she kicks you or something.
Do you understand how much you would be like shaking if you were in an octagon in front of 15,000 people? Like, do you understand how like wobbly you're going to be?
I would not be shaking at all.
You are
On the other side of the cage, there was a 135-pound woman.
The adrenaline dump that you would go through, dude, your legs would be jello. And if she gets you on the ground, she's going to beat you.
Gene, you've had some bad injury history too. So I think if she reads the scouting report, she can know your weak spots.
Damn, Cottrell got personal.
I had an ACL injury in 2018. What are you talking about?
Look, I feel like you're always hurt, man. I feel like
I'm not always hurt.
Every softball game we see you on the injury report. You're always questionable, but we know you're always playing. But there's always something.
This is wild right now. I just have missed 3 games in the last 3 years.
This took a turn.
I'm not. Look, I didn't say you're not tough. I didn't say you're not going to play in the games. I just said your name's going to be on the report with some injury.
Oh man,
all right? Let's just say let's just assume. All right, let's say she gets you on the ground. Do you really think you're going to hold up against her in a jiu-jitsu fight for 4 minutes?
I'd get up.
Oh man,
she's 135 pounds. I would bench her.
You say that.
I would bench her. I wouldn't bench her.
I think you obviously can bench her, but it's gonna be different when she's got you in a triangle with her legs squeezed around your face.
Might be enjoyable.
Next topic.
Let's get it.
Now you ruined it. The whole topic just lost all.
Not with Ronda. With Juliana, maybe.
Ronda Rousey will whoop your ass, dude.
No way,
bro.
Old pillow hands.
Yeah, old pillow hands. Holly Holmes knock you the hell out too.
Oh yeah,
Holly Holmes is a different.
Holly Holmes taking you out on the feet.
See, that's the difference right there, right?
Holly Holmes chop you down that. You'd have 2 bad ACLs.
Hold on. I think this is where you guys miss me, right? I think strikers like Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, and Chris Cyborg I would admit to defeat.
Well, Cyborg's a fair fight because she's a dude. So,
but then follow me real quick. I could admit to defeat versus a striker. They're quicker. Their striking is great. Pillow hands, Rousey, Misha Tate, Juliana Pena. No way, bro. None. You think a 135-pound woman is putting me in a submission attempt? You're out of your freaking mind.
Ronda Rousey.
No way.
Ronda would train with her husband Travis Brown, who's in the heavyweight division, and she'd be ready for you, no problem.
No problem, bro. The odds would be severely stacked against you getting out of the first round against Ronda Rousey.
She wouldn't get out of the first round versus
plus
me.
1,500 to get out the first round for Gene.
It might be more than that. Bet
the mortgage on Walzak.
I am betting every dollar somebody would give me, every quarter I could find in a couch, every penny I would find on the streets. I'm putting it on Ronda Rousey.
It's a mistake.
I disagree with Cottrell's other statement as well. Ronda Rousey is not losing.
Ronda Rousey is afraid to get in the octagon. I think if you throw her in the octagon,
she's making $10 million a year wrestling 4 months a year.
No. I understand that. I'm just saying we saw her last 2 performances, and I get it. They were against people who were very good. But I think if you throw her in the octagon with anybody in the top 15 in the UFC, they are taking Ronda out because Ronda does not want to be there, and she is not
Amanda
confident.
Nunes money was the easiest money I ever won in my entire life. When Ronda came back to fight Amanda Nunes, and no one really knew who Amanda Nunes was, that was the easiest money I ever learned in my life. Should I read this? I will put her in a headlock.
Don't.
Okay.
No.
David, I can't read it on air. Bill has given me the kibosh. So we got to move on to the PGA.
This lawyer's already calling.
PGA, US Open, Shally. It's one of your favorite weekends of the year, along with the Ryder Cup, the PGA Tour Championship, the Masters, the British
FedEx
Open,
Cup.
British Open is not one of them, dude. I actually do not like the British Open that much. To be 100% honest with you.
All right, so give us our lead-in to this year's U.S. Open. By the way, my chiropractor loves golf. Bro. He talks to me like I'm this golf aficionado. Because I have a podcast. Like, you guys talk about golf? I'm like, yeah, we talk about it. Like, the one guy, Bill, knows a lot more than I do. And he's like, yeah, did you see last week the 72-foot putt by the Canadian? I'm like, yeah, I've seen it on ESPN. That's basically the only thing I've seen in that Canadian Open.
I say, does he not know that you're super cash?
I'm cash. At least I'm cash in golf. I will not. I refuse to get into grass ping pong. That'll never be a sport that I follow.
Unreal.
You have gotten a lot better at golf. I'll give you credit. You've gotten more into it.
He picked the Masters champion, and then he just was like, you know what? I think I can do this.
Listen, there's a lot of ways.
Bro, I won $1,800 off of a $40 bet on. That's what got me into golf. If I win $1,800 off a $40 bet in grass ping pong, then I'll get into that game too. If you don't know, if this is your first time listening to the show, I refer to soccer as grass ping pong.
Got Euros coming up in a couple weeks, Gene.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, me and control.
You can have a separate show for that. Special soccer special.
Euros, baby. Euros, a big tournament.
I'll take a nap.
All right. Yeah, so U.S. Open this week. Los Angeles Country Club, the North Course, got redid about 5 years ago. Unique course. It's going to play around 7,500 yards, which on the surface doesn't sound like a lot, but this is only a par 70. And what makes this course super unique is it has 5 par 3s. So, with the different yardages, it's going to play long. The rumor is they're not going to water the course much this week at all. So by Saturday and Sunday, the greens are going to be, typical U.S. Open, conditions. You hit the ball in the wrong spot, you're going to sit there and die a slow death and watch your ball roll off the green, which is what I'm here for. So Matthew Fitzpatrick last year won at Brookline. He's your defending champion. Course is set up, I think normal USGA kind of conditions. They made the fairways on a lot of holes this year a little bit wider than normal. There's one hole, the fairway is even 60 yards wide. That's crazy wide for a U.S. Open. Rough is going to be absolutely brutal this week. It's about 3 to 4 inches. It's all Bermuda. If you go on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere, and follow anybody that's walked on the course, they just drop a golf ball and it disappears. It is gone. Fairways are going to be at a premium. Guys that can hit fairways and greens and hopefully make some putts, that is who's going to win this weekend. So it is going to be a very fun tournament to watch. There's a couple holes that are extremely quirky. I mentioned the par 3s already. There's 2 that are going to play about 290 yards. There's guys hitting drivers on the tees of par 3s. There's another hole that could play as short as 80 yards, which is crazy in a major. 80-yard par 3, but it's got a really, a landing area that's about 6 to 7 yards wide. If they put the pin there, if you don't, you don't land your ball there, you're either going in rough, or you're to a bunker that it's a pot bunker that you're going to be buried. So there's going to be carnage. There's going to be big numbers. You'll probably see some thrown clubs, maybe some snapped clubs. I think it has the potential this weekend to be very very humbling for the pros.
Okay, so let's get into our picks. Control, do you want to go first?
I'll go first because I got one name that stands out to me the most. I got Colin Morikawa taking the cake to win the U.S. Open here. Golfer from LA, hometown, in his backyard. I'm sure he's probably played the course before. This is an interesting course because I feel like they've never played on this course before. Everyone alive that has never played a PGA event on this course. So I think Colin, it being in his backyard, hopefully it gives him a little bit of advantage. He wants to. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of his people there behind him. I'm going with Colin to win, and at plus 3,000, I love the odds there.
Tell Augie we all said good pick.
I don't like the back injury there. That's why I'm staying away from him. It is his hometown. He will have a lot of fans there. He's already talking today about how he's trying to pick the ball up differently out of the hole to not tweak his back. So 4 days of that, I'm a little worrisome.
Once again, tell audio we all said good pick, bro.
That's all me. That's all me.
I have 3 picks for you this week. I'll go 3 through 1. The person I think that's going to win, I'll give you last. But I think the 2 guys have really good odds. I'll go with my long shot first. I'm going with Dustin Johnson at plus 3,500, 35-1 for an accurate ball striker like Dustin. I think that's a steal as far as value goes. At 18-1, I got Victor Hovland. I think Victor Hovland's got a very good chance to win this. Good ball striker, very good on the fairways, good fairway numbers. But the guy that I have winning it this week is Patrick Cantlay, plus 1,600. Patrick Cantlay wins the U.S. Open, and Gene becomes P-Gene-A once again.
So, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but it's always interesting when me and Gene pick the same golfers. And that is again a little testament to I think Gene is a little bit more into golf than he likes to lead on. He's got to keep his rep up as the football guy, but I think behind the scenes, I think Gene likes golf a little bit more than he leads on.
I watch Sundays. I swear to God, I watch Sundays. Like when it's coming down the stretch, I enjoy that. I just can't get into a Thursday afternoon. It just doesn't work for me.
I get it. I mean, I love it. Like, I mean, we're gonna be, I'll have it on in my office tomorrow at work. So it's gonna be fun to be able to watch it and work at the same time. And again, I'm a golf junkie though, so I'm a little bit different.
You're a sports junkie. You're watching tennis. You're watching golf. You're watching
national pickleball tournament.
Don't diss pickleball, bro. I don't know anybody that play it. I play it, like it's fun. I watch it on TV though because the people are crazy good at it. I don't know any of the people that play it though. I'm not that far into it yet, but yeah. Listen, I gotta keep evolving. Got to stay ahead of everybody. But it's you said tennis. Wimbledon's in a couple weeks, baby.
I know.
And then I'm going to take you to the U.S. Open this year, and then you're going to fall in love with it once you watch it in person, and it'll be fun. Maybe we'll get Cottrell to fly in. But for U.S. Open, I'm going to start with 2 long shots. I'm going to go with Fairway Jesus, Tommy Fleetwood at plus 5,000. Had a victory last week in Canada, snatched from him when Nick Taylor dropped a 75-foot putt on his head in the 4th playoff hole. This course sets up well for him though. Doesn't have to be overly long, but Tommy Fleetwood is they call him Fairway Jesus for a reason. He hits fairways, he hits greens. I think if he can get through the first 2 days and hang around, I think he's got a shot to hit the board on Sunday. My other long shot is either going to completely blow up, and if he blows up, you will get the best highlights and quotes and bleeped out things that you could possibly get out of a golfer. Gene's nemesis, Tyrell Hatton, is my second long shot. He's a grinder. He hasn't finished outside the top 20 in a tournament all year. He's playing well. He's due for a little blip. Again, though, if he implodes, just watch golf. You will hear some of the funniest things come out of this man's mouth hitting a golf shot ever. They're my 2 long shots. I got 2 winners. Gene already mentioned one of them. Patrick Cantlay. Steady Eddie. He's a mentally tough golfer. Course kind of fits his game if he can putt well. He's not a guy that's usually going to implode. He's not that type of guy. These are the kind of tests that, usually he ends up towards the top of the leaderboard somewhere. So Cantlay, I think, has a good shot to win it. And I hate to say it, man, out of all the top golfers in the world, this next guy is kind of the only one that I really have a lot of confidence in right now. You could say Scotty Scheffler. I'm just not going to pick him. Rahm, I think, is back on the downside. Morikawa is hurt. Jordan's hurt. JT's not playing well. And I think Rory's just messed up in the head with the whole live thing. I think Brooks has a shot to win. I think he's playing great golf. He's won two U.S. Opens already. Course is going to set up well for him. Same kind of deal. If he's around the leaderboard on Saturday, everybody's going to look at him. Everybody's going to know where he is. He's going to be there. He's the best major golfer on the planet right now, and he's playing well. So he's got his confidence back. He's healthy. We'll see what happens. see if he adds another major to the trophy case.
Okay. College World Series is up on deck, and then we got a little Undisputed Shay leaving conversation before we get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. College World Series. I don't know anything about college baseball. I did my research today. I read everything I could read, and I have a winner over a semifinal, and that's it. That's all I have. I'm just gonna you can introduce it and talk about it. I could give two shits about it.
All right. Well, it's a little rude, but it's the College World Series.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I'm with you, Joe. I agree.
Charles Schwab Field, Omaha, Nebraska, used to be TD Bank Field. I'll go on record again. They never should have left Rosenblatt because Rosenblatt was awesome. But, bigger stadium, more tickets, more money, blah, blah, blah. We know. So here we are. You got the Wake Forest as number 1 overall seed. They've been the number 1 team in the country for most of the year. We do have a Cinderella this year. So we'll have a legit 8 seed in the tournament. They're the first 4 seed to come out of a super regional in over 50 years. That is the team of Oral Roberts. Feisty little group. Like I said, they are going to be probably the media's darlings. If they can win a game somehow and make it interesting, and they will have a lot of fans that will probably be pulling for them against the bigger squads. Wake Forest has the best pitching staff in the country by far. They have three number 1s, and Rhett Lauder, Josh Hartle, and Sean Sullivan, probably all going to be drafted next month. Legit bona fide number 1s. Lauder and Hartle are number 1 and number 2 in the country in ERA. Sean Sullivan has the lowest opposing batting average allowed in the country. They got studs. To win this tournament, to win the national championship, you have to have arms. You have to have guys that can go out and get outs and get out of innings and not let up big numbers. The teams that usually do that the most are successful. They are with, I believe, Tennessee, LSU, and Stanford. That is the murderer's row bracket of the 2, in my opinion, because I think you have 2 other legit teams in their bracket that could win the World Series. I like them to be the favorites to come out. I still think they make the finals, and they make it on the back of that pitching, and they actually can hit a little bit as well. So I have Wake Forest in the final, and against them, I think they're going to play the Florida Gators, who have not a strong start at pitching, have the best bullpen in the country, though. They have 5 guys that have logged over 50 innings this year that can get people out. Again, you need arms. You need guys that can come out of the bullpen and get outs and get your team out of innings. They are probably the best hitting team in the country, though. They're definitely the best hitting team offensively in the College World Series. They have 5 of their 9 starters have over 10 home runs. And you have Jack Caglione, who has a whopping 31. He's up for Player of the Year. So he just mashes. He's a typical big first baseman that just hits nukes. So I have Wake Forest against Florida in the final best of 3.
I got Florida over Wake Forest in my finals. Mashers over Dashers.
Well, that is very anticlimactic here because I have Florida and Wake Forest in the final as well, but I got Wake Forest winning. The only college baseball game I've watched all season was Wake Forest against Alabama, and they scored like 85 runs against Alabama, and Bama scored like 5. So Wake Forest looked as dominant as can be, and so I'm rolling with Wake Forest to get it done.
I got Wake Forest winning as well, 2-1. I think it's actually a very, very good series. I think it'll be one of the better series in recent memory. If there's a dark horse, the old wrench in the machine, I think it's Tennessee. Not quite as cocky and not quite as talented as the team everybody saw last year that, a lot of people loved watching. Other people hated it because, they're breaking a lot of the, unwritten rules of baseball. But they are back. Again, I don't think they're as good as last year. I don't think they're quite as confident either, but Tennessee, they are playing well coming in. So, I think they have a shot to upset and possibly get out of that top bracket.
Okay, last topic of the night. Uncle Shay, Shannon Sharp. It's left undisputed. Got out of his contract with Fox Sports. A lot of talk around the Skip Bayless situation where Skip has kind of disrespected him multiple times. I think a lot of this really started. I think it started a while ago, but I think the disrespect that happened over the DeMar Hamlin comments was the first straw. I think the comments about Tom Brady, he's better than you, and you're talking like I'm a bum. I think a lot of the disrespect that Skip Bayless has put out, Shannon Sharpe is pretty much finished with. What I found really interesting about because I don't watch the show. I'm not a big fan of the show to begin with. I don't like Skip Bayless. I can't stand him. But I did catch the send-off, the goodbye. I listened because I wanted to see if I could read between the lines of what Shannon Sharpe was going to say. Two things were very evident about that goodbye. As much as it seemed like he praised Skip, he never praised his character. He said, "Thank you for the opportunity. You fought for me." I have wrote down quotes from what he said, but never he said, like, "You're a great friend. I really like you. I hope we always stay in touch. You're a good person. You're misunderstood." None of that came out. It was, "I gave you my all every day, and thank you for fighting for me. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this position." That's not a rearing endorsement for someone's character. And I thought that was interesting, what Shannon Sharpe put down. I think it's very obvious that this hindrance in the relationship came from Skip Bayless interrupting Shannon Sharpe and saying things that I would categorize as disrespectful to the Hall of Famer. Even in Shannon's goodbye, Skip interrupted him. Shannon had a moment where he got teared up and he needed a second to wipe his eyes, and Skip jumped right in. Shannon's like, "Hang on, I'm not finished my point. I just would like to finish my send-off." I found that very interesting. How that all played out. Shannon, like the consummate professional that he is, does not attribute him leaving Fox to Skip. He has said that he has just other opportunities. I really would love to hear your guys' opinions on the situation between Shannon and Skip, and who would be the likely replacement for Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed.
I think it's, I found part of it interesting. I watched it a couple times now. Listen, I think, anybody who's ever seen Shannon Sharpe around, I think, obviously, the disrespect for what he did as a football player, I think is crazy. We always joked about how, well, not joke, but like, I mean, growing up, Elway was, one of my favorite players. He played with Shannon Sharpe, and, I just haphazardly got to watch him play football a lot. Dude, he's a top 3 tight end of all time. I think that is the part where, I kind of like what Gene said. I think that's kind of maybe, what really started to deteriorate the relationship. I think the Hamlin thing is 100%, was the match to the rag type, the incident. But I think the biggest thing is, you look at him before, and I don't think you ever saw anything with him off the court or off the show. I mean, excuse me, of being upset or like getting into it with fans or anything like that. And I think it carried over to his personal life, and I think that's I think that is he was just really unhappy. He wanted to get out. I mean, you saw the video of the thing with John Morant's dad. There was a couple of videos of like him in the airport snapping at people. I don't think he was being able to separate his personal life from the show anymore. I think he was genuinely just not happy doing that job anymore. I think a lot of that falls on Skip. I think that structure of a show is tough to begin with. I think it's hard to show up and sit across the desk from somebody, and we get into arguments here, but it never really gets to a personal level. You're going on national TV, and for lack of a better terms, you're fighting with somebody who you say is going to be, or you say is your friend or somebody that you respect, and that is, that's the goal of the show. And I think that's wearing on some people. I think you saw it, in Skip's in the beginning of Skip's, message that, that wasn't even supposed to be the format of the show. That's not what they thought they were going to do. They wanted Undisputed to be different than, that what he came from with Stephen A. And then, Shannon kind of, took the bull by the horn, and they realized what they had, and they went along with it. I don't think that's an easy type of show to do. I don't, and to some degree, I understand Skip's point of view. I don't agree with it. But again, when the show is structured the way it is, it kind of goes with the territory. I also think if you genuinely care about the guy that's across the desk from you, like he says he did, I think there's always a line. And I think Skip is guilty of going across it way too often.
That's a good point.
And I think when you're sitting across the table from, again, a bona fide Hall of Famer who is a top 3, top 4 at his position to ever play the game.
I think that's generous. I put him top 5, though.
Okay, fine. Top 5.
No disrespect, Shannon, but Tony, Antonio, Rob, and Travis have something to say about that.
Facts. I've been thinking it the whole time, but I was just going to let Bill go.
So, again, however you want to slice it. But to question somebody like that, his credentials, and say, you weren't as good as you think you were, or anything along that line is nutty to me. And again, I think you can only sit there and take certain things so long. And, I think it was a situation where Shannon, I do think Shannon put his heart in the show, and I think
he's known as a workaholic who never took a sick day. You realize that Shannon Sharp was known in that office as a complete workaholic who never took a sick day and gave his all every single show he was on. I kind of want to lead into Cottrell before you go. Cottrell, can I lead into you real quick?
Go ahead.
We've worked together before. We've worked on the sales floor together. We've been in the same store. We've debated sports outside of just on this show multiple times and have taken different angles, different approaches, and different conversations. Am I correct?
Yep.
Have I ever disrespected you as a man or a personal human being when we were debating sports?
Never.
And that's the difference, in my opinion. I think that you can be on a sports debate show without disrespecting someone as a human being. And I think that the line that he said with Tom Brady being the greatest to ever play your game and you couldn't wear his bootstraps, and Shannon's like, you talk like I was a bum. I was a Hall of Famer. He's like, he was much better than you, and you broke down a 35. I thought that was really the thing that I don't think that Shannon could get past. And the fact that when Shannon had his opinion on DeMar Hamlin and said, I wish that Skip would retract what he said about playing football and Skip would not fall off that ground. Cottrell, we've debated a million times. Am I right?
Yeah.
Have I ever disrespected you as a man?
Nope.
So speak on.
I was just going to say, I think the one thing that kind of gets lost in this, just from like a holistic standpoint, is that Shannon Sharp obviously is a football player, and he was a football analyst before going over to Undisputed. And so for him to now be considered this workaholic, and I don't really watch Undisputed, but I know they cover more topics outside of just football. So for him to be well versed in all these different sports that he wasn't considered an expert on, I think that goes to show just the work that he put in. And to be with a guy like Skip, who is, love him or hate him, I mean, he's covered the sport for, forever. And so, whether you like his opinions or not, he knows the games, and you gotta respect it. I definitely think, Shannon coming in, he never seemed out of place on Undisputed. So that's first things first. And then, with that, I 100% agree. I think the disrespect was something that couldn't be tolerated. Shannon Sharp was a guy who went in, did exactly, whatever was asked for him and beyond. And Shannon Sharp now, he's really considered the uncle of the masses right now. He has his own podcast, Club Shay Shay, that's doing really well. And essentially, I almost feel like Shannon got to the point where he's at, like, I don't need this. Like, I don't need to come into this toxic environment where I'm not appreciated by the person that I sit across from every single day. I know what I'm worth, and I'm going to find a way to be myself and also get paid for what I do. So I think Fox also behind the scenes, they probably knew as well, like, yeah, this isn't really going to work out too much longer, because there's going to be a point where, Shannon may say something on air or Skip says something on air that they can't recover from. So I think this was an amicable split. And you're right. I do think that DeMar Hamlin was a big part of it, because if you remember, Shannon Sharp just didn't come on set the next day. He was just missing. No one ever said anything about it. I think he came on the next time he was on. He mentioned a little bit, sorry about my absence, but I just felt it was better that I didn't come on the show that day. But I just think
that took that day to explain himself. He took it instead of like doing what you should have did. He took that day to explain himself.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, I think Shannon Sharp's in a great position too. Obviously, ESPN, I'm sure, is gonna offer him some money. I'm sure he can go back to CBS if he wants to. So Shannon Sharp will be fine. His podcast is doing great, and I think he's still in a great spot. And then for Skip, you talked about who replaces him. I don't know who would want to be on a show with Skip. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of money to go do Undisputed, and you're going to get the ratings and things like that. But I think you got to throw a guy like Emmanuel Acho and Shady McCoy are the only two people that I think on Fox's network that could take that job and make something of it. And I dislike watching both of them. That's why I think it'll work.
I don't think it'll be Shady.
No, Shady.
Shady will lose his cool too quick, and Shady will say something that
which is why I think that they might do that.
I think that's a bad look. I think that Shady would definitely lose his cool, and I think that if you've listened to Shady talk sports, he's really bad at it. And I don't have none against him. He's just terrible at it.
I dislike him, and I dislike Acho too, but I think they're going to put
Acho. Acho has a strong opinion, and he can back it up by facts.
Acho is more well spoken too. Shady's not polished enough to do that show.
Acho is he stands by what he said. The Justin Herbert thing is really what got me off of Acho 100%. I mean, you can't just continually say Justin Herbert's just an average quarterback, and then game after game after game after game, Herbert does what he does, and you don't alter your stance. Like, that just can't happen.
I think the one person that would make me tune into the show, but I think this is the least likely person that's on Fox, is Joy Taylor. I would watch every day if Joy Taylor was on that show. I'll marry Joy Taylor tomorrow. Look,
Joy would not go for that.
I would definitely go for that. I don't know.
I said Joy won't.
No, Joy would not go for that. Joy would definitely call it out. But she's great. I love listening to her. She's great on Speak On. But I don't know who the next person that's going to be on that show. I think that'll be interesting. Maybe they can call me up. I'll go on there and I'll tell Skip what time it is, and I'll be ready. Call me up. I'm ready. Hit me up.
Yeah,
but
Joy was on with Colin and didn't get the respect she wanted. So,
but see, the thing is this, I think that she's proved herself on Speak On and what she can do, and I honestly think she's the biggest name on that show.
I agree.
All right, so let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. I got a fun one. You want to start us off, Control?
Absolutely. I really got a few, but I'm gonna go with one, and then if we get around and nobody's mentioned the others, I'll just throw a little out there. But the big one for me was something that we kind of already touched on earlier in the show. So Nick Taylor, he hit the 75-foot putt. That alone is worth You Gotta Be Kidding Me, because the putt was crazy. Walk off, the club throw, all of it was absolutely crazy. But the You Gotta Be Kidding Me for me comes in when Adam Hadwin, the other Canadian who wanted to go celebrate with him, ran over to him, tried to give him a hug. Security came out of nowhere and they tackled him. You got to know your personnel a little bit better than that. Like, I get it, things are chaotic, but you can't go tackle professional golfers. And I get it, everyone was joking about it afterwards, and he was a good sport. And Adam Hadwin, it even came out afterwards, and it came out that he had told the security guard, "Sorry, I made you tackle me. Like, I didn't mean to make you run out after me." But you got to know your personnel, and I need you guys to be better with that, celebrating that great moment. But fun one for me. But the security guard who tackled Adam Hadwin.
On, you gotta be kidding me.
I didn't want to skip over David Burns' point. I apologize. I've been lacking on the chat, so I apologize to anybody in the chat last couple. But he said what Skip isn't understanding is how to respectfully report an issue. I don't disagree with that. It's a very good point. Thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that to light. But awesome stuff. Shally. Great, you got to be kidding me, by the way, Control.
I mean, mine is now Control. I mean, I'm the golf guy on the show. I figured I'd pick the golf topic, and I would be safe. And now I don't have one because Control stole it. So
I get the luxury of going first every week. So
mine is Control for being a thief and a scumbag.
See, this is what we're talking about, Skip.
See, nope, you don't even. You know what? You don't even get a sound now.
It's fine.
I'm just gonna go to Gene.
Stole my segment, steal my soundbite. It's fine. Apparently, what you do, it's fine.
Listen, let's relax there, Skip. All right.
Yep.
Skip.
Texting Shannon, something's come back.
All right, so I touched on mine earlier, and I'm just gonna get a little further into it today. Juliana Pena is my you got to be kidding me this week. Juliana, the disrespectful attitude, she pulled out of the fight. Amanda didn't pull out of the fight. I understand you're injured. You pulled out of the fight. She was going to fight you for the trilogy. You pulled out of the fight. The press conference, yes, Amanda drew first blood. With why she was so upset she couldn't allow. I was going to retire, but I couldn't allow Juliana to have the belt. Why? Because she's not that good. She's not that good. I should have beat her. I fought really bad and I was hurt. She definitely drew first blood. Juliana responded in the press conference, which I was okay with. She said she can't draw flies. She's had 7 title defenses and only main evented 2 of them. And one was versus her, and the other one was going to be versus her. Fair points. No issues there. Amanda Nunes, after dominating the fight that she had to take because you dropped out due to injury, was planning on retiring by the end of this fight, regardless of whether it was versus Juliana or not. The problem remains is when Amanda Nunes is giving her goodbye speech, one of the greatest to ever do it, one of the top 5, 6, 7 people in the history of UFC, the greatest female champion ever, is hanging them up, and you're in the crowd screaming and disrespecting her. I have an issue with that. Like I said before when we were talking about it, Juliana Pena was 2-2 in her last 4 fights before she got that opportunity versus Amanda. She took that opportunity. She ran with it. She got the W. Got her another payday fighting Amanda a second time. And it was almost going to get her a third payday fighting Amanda for a third time, this one being the main event. Sorry you got hurt. Sorry you blew your opportunity. But that has nothing to do with Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes clearly beat you the second time you guys fought. And by my money, she would have clearly beat you again. Juliana Pena, you got to have more class than that. So for this week, Juliana Pena.
On, you gotta be kidding me.
I got to give myself credit. Let me pat myself on the back.
Oh, Lord.
That was very well spoken by me. I felt like I broke that down articulately and perfect. I'm going to clip that, send it over to Skip, and then maybe me and him can have a debate and get me on that. Skip! I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Love me some wire to wire. Show 140. Cottrell, I diverge to you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I got a couple. You know, we brought it up a little bit earlier. My other, you got to be kidding me, that I was going to use Zion Williamson and the mess that he's got himself in. He announces he's supposed to be happy times. He announces that, you know, he's got a baby on the way. And then next thing you know, he's got a porn star, Mariah Mills, coming out of nowhere like, hey, you know, You
I'm
said
supposed
that
to
you were
move
gonna
with you.
you were gonna move me to New Orleans, and you had this car waiting for me, and all this other stuff. Like you were just texting me a couple weeks ago, like, and now I'm the side chick. Like, what's going on here? So Zion, he can't even get on the court, get it together on the court. Now he's having these problems off the court. At some point he stops playing. He's not gonna have enough money to take care of all these women and all these kids. So he better get it together and get it together fast. So that was my other thing. And then the other one, I don't think we talked about it last week because I don't think it had happened yet. Chris Paul gonna be moving on from the Phoenix Suns. I get it, he's old, but and I'm the guy that hates on him. I think he still can be a piece that helps out a good team as long as you don't ride him too long. So interesting to see where he goes to.
Thank you, Kyle, man. I appreciate your comment. Zion is a mess. Jory Sports Stories. She just stopped her tirade today. That's been going on for 3 days. Zion posted that on Sunday.
She didn't hold anything back. I'll tell you
no, not at all. Hell have no fury like a woman scorned.
Oh yeah, I definitely had to keep it short because some of those things just can't be said on there. You just gotta go back and look at them if you haven't seen them.
Her tweets.
Gotta go read them.
So bad.
Let you spit in my mouth.
That's just one of them.
That's the first one.
That's not even the bad one.
That's the first one.
Shally, any final thoughts tonight?
No. I have, like I said, it's looking forward to the weekend for obvious reasons, and hope we had a great show tonight. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I have a final thought. This will be my last show in this attic. I know us moving doesn't matter to you guys, but I am moving Saturday, and I cannot wait. I will have a full studio set up in my new apartment. I will have a TV right in front of the studio screen so I can do live play-by-plays. You'll see me going live a lot more often. I appreciate the support that you guys have given Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Shout out to Sports Empire Network. You got it, brother. You got your hand up.
And whoever is available, go help Gene move his stuff.
I got like 9 people at this point. I'm good.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Appreciate that. But shout out to Sports Empire Network, Notoriety Sports, Dylan Beeks, everybody in the comments tonight. Jury, Dylan, everybody that came through tonight. Appreciate all the comments and all the shares. Give us a like, download, a subscribe. This is Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, episode 140. We are signing out.